All right, thank you very much for joining the interview today. And we have a special guest. Before we begin into interview, can you briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, I'm Allison Lowry. I'm a junior forward on the women's soccer team here at Rutgers, and I'm from Bridgewater, New Jersey.
Okay, so you say you play forward, right?
I am forward, yeah.
Because I play soccer in high school too. I think forward is a pretty tough position to play. In terms of playing forward, there are a lot of skill sets that are required. What do you think is one of the most important skill set as a player who plays forward position?
I think the most important part of playing my position is the first touch. I gotta know where I'm going with the ball before I get it. So am I gonna shield off a defender and keep it at my feet? Am I gonna try and turn? Am I gonna bounce it back to someone and try to move? Everything that I do depends on that first touch, and if it's not good, then it throws the plan off.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. What is like one of the training that you do to get your first touch better?
There's this thing we do, wall ball. In high school, we had to do 10,000 touches a week.
What?
You just hit it against the wall and just 2-foot bounce, just work on different moves, hit it 1 touch, hit it 2 touch, 3 touch, just all different combinations, just back and forth, lots of reps, lots of consistency, and I have noticed a huge difference since I started doing it.
You play soccer in high school, but also you're playing soccer in college. I'm pretty sure there's a difference, right? When you're playing soccer in high school and when you're playing soccer for college, what do you think is like the main difference that you find?
So when I was in high school, I did high school soccer, I did club soccer, and I found that I was a lot bigger, a lot stronger than other girls. Come to college, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I actually have to start, like, maneuvering myself a different way. I can't just rely on my strength because there's girls who are a lot stronger than me. So I just have to get used to playing a different way, how I move, how I do all that. And you got to know that there's always a bigger fish in the sea.
Okay. As a soccer player at Rutgers, for training, like what are some of the routines that you guys do during the season and off the season?
Our practice block is from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, it changes in season, out of season. So from the hours of 1 to 3, the coaches can do whatever they want. That's their time. But before and after that, that's when we have our classes, that's when we do our homework. When we're out of season, we use that time to, yes, do our classes and homework, but we also do our fitness because we have a smaller amount of time with the coaches and they want to focus on bettering the team, bettering our technical skills. They don't want to have to worry about getting us on the line. So that's a responsibility we have. But in season, when we travel, it's kind of different because we're already out of classes, so there's not really a set thing we have to stick to, although we do kind of. But we can have film at night. It's just more time consuming in season. But yeah.
Okay. Is there any like hardest training, specific exercise or specific training that you remember as one of the hardest thing to do?
There's times when it's hard because it gets tiring. We like to, like I said earlier, we don't want to do our fitness in practice. So if we're doing a passing pattern, it sprints to the next cone. And when things get hard, mentally and physically, is when you're tired. So the drills that are more demanding of us physically often are more demanding of us mentally. So that's when it gets hard, is when you get tired and you have to keep up, because that's creating a game-like scenario too.
Let's just talk about like some of your soccer career, because I think a lot of people who play sports and who also want to move into D1, playing sports in D1 school, they may have questions on what are some of the experience that the athletes had before and how they were able to use that experience to put themselves into a position where they play sports in college.
The number one thing I can say to somebody when they're asking, what do I have to do to play D1 sports? I like to say, play other sports. I grew up doing gymnastics, softball, basketball, and soccer for as long as I could. And I think that helped prepare me the most because it helped me develop different skills that I have that other girls don't have. And I'm just a better overall athlete because of it. But otherwise, soccer, I played high school. I had the opportunity to not play high school and represent my town and play for an academy team. And I chose not to do that because playing for my community was something that was very important. So you don't have to give up what you want to do in order to get to college. There's different paths. Everybody takes a different way. Girls on my team didn't play high school. Girls on my team did. It's just about hard work. And if you put in the work, it'll pay off. Email lots of coaches. Do what you can. and just be a good person because coaches don't want bad people on their teams. So yeah.
Okay. I think one of the point that you mentioned is how you can play multiple sports, right? And that's also one of the football player kind of said the same thing in the interview. If you play different sports, it helps you build different aspect that you may use, like whether it's football or soccer. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that you also mentioned that point. I think it's really important to play different sports because if you play soccer and if you play different sport, because you play two sports, you may complement certain aspect from those two sports, and I think that it can be very beneficial, as you said. So, is there any recommendation or tips for those high school students in terms of getting recruited to college?
I would say do what you can. Sports are very expensive right now. I don't feel there's a need for that. But not everybody has the same opportunities. I know the club I played for, or a lot of clubs, they offer scholarships if you can't afford it. Just do what you can. When you go to showcases, when you go to camps, make sure you're emailing people, get your name out there, and actually show interest in these schools. Do your research first, know their roster, like when you're a freshman, who's going to be there at what age in your position. Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. You're an athlete. You also balance school stuff as well. And I guess it's kind of cool to hear a different aspect from a student athlete than just a student. Is there any special occasion or any memorable event that you remember as being an athlete?
Yeah, so in high school, I had to take my SATs to be able to come to Rutgers, but I was in South Carolina for a soccer tournament. So Saturday morning, I woke up, took my SATs, and then played a game later that day. That was kind of funny because who does that?
Right.
It's a weird thing, but now I can look back and be like, oh, I took my SATs in South Carolina.
Yeah, so I'm pretty, because you said you're from like New Jersey, right?
Yeah, I'm from Jersey.
And you had to take SAT from like different state. I think that's just like a big wow experience because you had to register like SAT not in New Jersey but in South Carolina.
Yeah.
And it could be like a big hassle too. Okay, so I think that's a pretty interesting fact
Yeah.
about being an athlete because I would never imagine someone take a SAT exam outside of the state.
Yeah, there are 3 of us on the team that had to do it at that time.
Oh, okay, so it's not just you.
No, it wasn't me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 3 of us. One girl goes here now, another girl goes to Cornell.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So I guess you guys like travel around the different state to play soccer, and maybe that's like the main reason why you guys have to take.
Yeah, we played everywhere, and I'm very thankful for the experiences that I've had because we've been in Seattle, California, Arizona, Colorado, all up and down the East Coast. It's just things that I wouldn't do if I didn't play soccer.
Wow, that's a great experience.
Yeah, that was just in high school. Now in college, we're just everywhere too.
Okay. So I thought it was very interesting to hear about like the life of student athlete who plays soccer at Rutgers, and I think this question would be very interesting. What is one of the favorite workout or exercise that you do during the training, and what is the worst exercise?
Oh. So my favorite thing we do in practice is probably when we do small-sided scrimmages. It's like maybe a third of the field, like tight spaces. We use the big goals, so it's like an opportunity to take lots of shots, get used to working in tight spaces, and it gets very competitive. Sometimes it gets a little harsh out there, but when it's done, we're all best friends again. So that's cool. But the worst thing, coming into my freshman year was COVID, so I couldn't work out with the team at all, and they gave me my fitness packet. And I was scared little freshman. I was like, all right, like, we're going to do this. It was 300s. Worst thing I ever had to do. I didn't think I was going to make it in college after I did that.
Oh, wow.
But once you get in the flow of working out, things get much better, and it might be intimidating at first, but I promise it gets so much better.
Okay, so 300 is like one of the worst. Is it because like you have to fit into like certain time?
Yeah, it was
for 300.
It was the time. I forget what it was. I don't know. It was a minute and a half. I think 6 times.
Ooh.
Minute and a half on, maybe. Minute 20 on, minute 20 off. I think. And then that was 6 times, for 3 sets with 3 minutes in between.
Okay.
I think that's what it was.
So what if one of the athlete kind of failed to make within that time?
So that was on our own.
Uh-huh.
So what I can say, if you're working on your fitness packet, if you can't do it in the time, just make sure you do it. I mean, you don't have to do it perfectly. It's not going to be perfect the first few times, even first 10 times. But as long as you're doing the work, it'll show that you're trying, and you'll see improvement.
Because soccer is obviously like you have to run a lot. Pretty sure your stamina and everything is very important. What do you think is most important in terms of like training for those like stamina?
I think consistency is the most important. But you don't want to you want to vary it. One day you'll do sprints, one day you'll do long distance, always a rest day. Like, you got to vary it, but you have to stay consistent with it because you don't want to lose your fitness. And once you lose your fitness, it sucks because then you have to get it back and you have to work harder to get to where you were. So just consistency is key.
Okay, that's great. So yeah, let's move on to the last question. Because you're a student athlete, I'm pretty sure your experience compared to like just a student is definitely different because you guys have a big extra work, playing sport for college. That's not easy. What is one of your advice that you could give to a lot of people who are looking to play sports in college?
So advice I would give is if you need something, ask. When I'm out on injury, I've been injured a lot. Practice time, you go and watch practice, but you have to do your PT and rehab before. You have to get your fitness in at a different time, and sometimes it's very overwhelming. So if you need to miss practice to sit and do work, if you just need a day, like, just ask. Like, coaches will be more than happy to help you because they understand that academics come first. But you need to understand that if you do that, you can't be going partying that night. You have to, like, if you're missing practice to do this, that's the plan, and that's what you have to stick to.
Okay. Yeah, I think that advice is very important. Especially, if you need something, if you just don't say anything, no one's gonna really know, right? You have to actually speak up for yourself to let other people know that, oh, maybe I can make some change here and there. And I think those can definitely benefit you for a long run. So yeah, thank you very much for being in this interview. And I hope that a lot of people who may be interested in playing soccer in college get this information, get information from this interview. Hopefully these informations are useful for you.
Thank you for having me.
So yeah, thank you for coming here, and we'll be back. Bye.